Welcome to Gaming on a Budget. Today we bring you Kanban, Automotive Revolution from designer Vital Lacerda and Stronghold Games. Now this is for 2 to 4 players and is a worker placement game, though definitely a somewhat novel one in that you have a single worker. You will never have more, you will never have less. You've got yourself, the worker. You have just been given a job in a, I believe it's Japanese automotive plant that uses the just-in-time system, where everything happens right at the moment it needs to maximize efficiency. Kanban, I believe, means billboard, based on large billboard signs in the automotive plants that, indicate what is needed precisely at that moment. But that's just a little bit of trivia there. And of course I could be horribly wrong. But at any rate, so we'll just give you a real quick rundown kind of the board layout here. And then, as per our usual, explain most of the little rules as we go along and do things. And we'll try and show you, most of, hopefully all of what the game really has to offer. We may not go through an entire game because, as the box says, 60 to 120 minutes. Which is a fair assessment. Usually it's going to be closer to 60 in a 2-player game like we'll be doing, with reasonably experienced players. Yeah, you were about to interject that, weren't you?
Yes, I was.
Yes, okay. Yeah, when you're first learning, it's going to take a lot longer than that. Now, looking down at this board, you may be thinking, oh my goodness. But really, it's not that bad. A lot of it is fluff, and it's very cool, very thematically appropriate, immersive fluff, but fluff nonetheless. So, to summarize what I mean, let's start by looking at the departments. Each one reasonably well defined by kind of a white border of sorts there. This section, with these 2 spaces here, these being the spaces you'll be placing your worker self on, indicate this particular department, these 2 for this department, and so on and so forth down the line. You'll notice how they are lined up from right to left, which will be the order the spaces will activate in the round. So, a player in this position will act before a player in this position in the round. Now, this department here is testing and innovation. In this department, we will be upgrading parts for our vehicles. We will also be acquiring vehicles for our personal garage from off the test line here.
Testing.
What?
For testing.
Yeah, exactly. Just generally scoring and upgrading parts, pieces, and cars. Now, this department over here, next in line, is the assembly line. This is where the cars will come together. In this department, we'll be doing a neat little conveyor belt system where when we add a car of a particular color, we'll be bumping along the direction the arrows indicate, pushing cars along, and finally out the factory floor and onto the test track. Now, as you can see, that's, part of the fluff I was talking about, because really could represent all of this with a lot less components and a lot simpler, but I really think it would take something away from the game. So, at any rate, next up we have parts, the parts warehouse, where we will order and acquire parts. We'll explain all that as we go along. Neat little card play mechanic here. Then the design department, where we will be acquiring designs for our cars and potentially designs to use for upgrading components. Each one of these car tiles can be used both to make the particular car as well as, if a symbol is indicated, used to upgrade that piece. So you're going to have to choose one as you will spin the design for either the upgrade or the car acquisition. And then finally, we have the administrative office. This is a place you won't see us play quite as often because, as indicated by the blue sections of the clock there, you are given less actions, each 3-hour period being one action. But you can activate any other department, just one, but any other one with those actions. Also, you got to come here to advance yourself in the administrative department. Now, why is advancing a department important? Well, because Sandra, the factory manager, this little pink meeple here, will be traveling through the departments from right to left, evaluating our progress. And since, as is my understanding, the game was designed more towards mean Sandra, she will be, she will be punishing the weak, those who have fallen behind with loss of points. So, we're going to do our very best to keep her happy. Right, so...
Or at least less mad at us.
No, yeah. I'm going for happy. You can go for less mad. Anyway, let's see them. Finally, down here we have the Recycle Center. Basically, we can trade in parts we've acquired for parts that are available. No more than one of a color can be in here. So I would have to...
no more than 3 in the center.
Well, there would be no way to make it happen. So I would need, say, a yellow cube to acquire a pink cube, since it's one of the available parts. Let's see. We have our wild part tiles. They can be traded in for any color part. We have our textbooks, what we can use to study in a department, to advance in a department we're visiting.
Without using time.
Yeah, without using time, which is critically important because you cannot spend more than 4 time in a department on your turn. So, I couldn't come here and spend a bunch of time, even if I had saved up a bunch of time.
Which brings us to
Shifts.
Human resources.
Yep, well, yeah. Human resources is actually this track here, I believe.
Oh,
well, maybe it's both of them.
Yeah.
Anyway, the certification track here will track our level of certification and determine who gets to speak first in a meeting. More on that in a moment. And the shift bank here will track our saved up time through extra efficient actions that we can use to take extra actions in a department we're visiting, up to the 4 action maximum, of course. But getting 4 actions on your visit instead of 2 or 3 is a big deal. It's essentially, in some cases doubling your turn. Now, let's see. As I mentioned, the meetings are going to be one of the primary ways we score points. We'll get to all that in our first meeting. But suffice it to say, going first is a good thing. Beyond that, we'll be collecting these little red seat tokens to unlock more chances to speak in the meeting. And that's probably about enough preamble. So, without any further ado, let's get on to the real amble and show you some gameplay.